तू चलता चल, तू चलता चल, तू चलता चल, तू बढ़ता चल, तू बढ़ता चल, तू बढ़ता चल.
In a GD, I like to listen first and I speak later. Is that okay?
There's nothing wrong in it. It's absolutely fine. There's no issues. You see, the crux is that your knowledge should be good. If you have the knowledge, you can wait and then start. There is no hard and fast rule that you will be the first one to speak or the second one to speak. But generally try to be among the early speakers.
Sometimes the group has already discussed the point I wanted to put forward. What do I do?
See, one is that if you have got good knowledge, then you should be having a fair amount of points. I mean, the number of points should not get exhausted when your turn comes. So, when your turn comes, preferably you should speak about the most important point till then which has not been touched upon. If this is not so, there may be situations where people have spoken about the point about which you wanted to speak. It is highly possible that they may not have spoken about all the angles to that point, and some aspects may still have remained. They would not have come out. So these aspects about that point only you can bring about. So that should be good enough. It's not that everything has been exhaustively discussed or explained. Fine, so you can do that.
Okay, so we move on to the next question. Anyone has to ask anything on this?
No.
Okay, so next question. How to deliver a lecturate in a well-structured and organized way?
I think I have discussed these issues individually with the students. I don't think I have given it out in the ebook, I don't remember. See, there is nothing different writing a blog, delivering a lecture, writing an essay. There are similar patterns. The first thing you do is you introduce. Introduction here would just imply that you tell your audience that this is the thing I'm going to talk about. And thereafter, you discuss the arguments, not a large number of points, but 3-4 major arguments in a deliberate manner, not rushed up, that you are trying to cover up more points and you are speaking fast. And as the bell nears you, start speaking even faster. Remain deliberate. Explain 3-4 points in a nice way, and thereafter come to a conclusion related to the topic or what you think you expect will happen in the future. To try to include some of the points which are your assessment and not just what all you have read, just summarization of whatever you have read or heard is not that good an idea. Some of your assessment should also be included. That should be the last thing, and aim should be to finish the talk in the prescribed time, not that you are rushing up and you have got some points left with the bell and second bell and all that is being, fine.
Okay, so the next question is, how is it relevant that how many guys called you as helper during command task? Speaking for myself, I never call a tall or bulky guy as it will be tough to implement the idea. But I am 6'3" and even I don't get called as a helper very often.
These things will be there. You see, most of the cases are neither 6'3" or are that bulky. Invariably, an overweight person will not be called much. That is a fact. However, if a person is neither overweight nor too tall, I mean, he is not awkward in any way, then if he is not being called by anyone, it indicates that his peer rating is not good. And his one thing can be that he is a trouble creator. Like there are some coaching academy people who do not allow others to do anything properly. That could be one category. Other category could be that they have seen the person in the PGT and HGT and they have realized that he will be of no use in giving any ideas. So why call him? These are some of the issues which determine as to the person if the person is not being called. After all, you see, when you become the commander, your focus is on doing the job well. And in doing the job well, you would like to take the subordinates who, in your view, are the most competent or most suitable to help you in doing the task. That should be your criteria of selecting your subordinates. And if we take that the other candidates are also behaving in a rational manner, then they would also be taking subordinates based on these qualities. I hope the answer is adequate.
Anyone has to ask something on this?
No, madam.
Fine, next question. Please.
Next question. What are your views about Donald Trump threatening India over hydroxychloroquine and India lifting its ban?
You see, this was the news of yesterday. It is there very much in limelight. Okay, let me give you a broad overview. See, the things whatever I have been able to gather is, firstly, this is a medicine which was primarily being used against malaria. And malaria affects Asia much more than in the Western world. India, as I have learned, produces about 70% of this drug, the entire consumption in the world. So India is a major producer. Now, firstly, one thing is there that there is no medicine which has a proven record of being able to treat coronavirus. There is no medication. So this medication has, I think, been approved by our medical people as also American Medical Association, that they have founded that the people who are exposed to the coronavirus, if they take it, their chances of contracting this ailment are somewhat reduced. Now, this is also an anecdotal kind of evidence and not an experimental evidence. But they have said that this drug can be of use. Indian medical people also feel that and Americans also feel that. So based on that, they are wanting this drug. Now, when we saw this threat of coronavirus and anything which was related to coronavirus, all treatment equipment, medication, all that. So on, I think 25th March, India had taken a decision to ban the export of this drug. Now, Trump was in need of this drug, and on a short notice, they can get it from India only. And probably, I think they had placed an order which we had not fulfilled. So Trump naturally has to take care of his countrymen. What I have learned is they already had a large amount of stock of this drug, and they were not that much under pressure. But anyway, there are political considerations, people are asking for it, so the politics came into play. Now once Trump spoke to Narendra Modi asking for this drug, then this thing came of threatening and all that. He said that I was listening to the excerpt of some press briefing of Donald Trump where he said that retaliation, he said, retaliation can be there. He has spoken to Modi, and that we have lifted the ban very quickly after Trump having spoken. I have no inside information as to know as to what quantity of drug India is holding. What is the forecast of India's requirement of this drug? I have no clue. And such information would be known to the medical people, and these inputs would have been given to Narendra Modi. Based on that, he would have taken a decision, I feel so. And I do not think Prime Minister should be taking decisions based on being threatened by Trump or something. That is my view. I really don't know the entire story or the total thing. I know total picture of this situation may never get clarified. But that I don't think he would have taken a decision under pressure of Donald Trump. I don't think so. But that's my conjecture. I am not. So I would not advise our students also to get involved in, there are a lot of propaganda kind of approach towards things, and it does appear to be a juicy kind of a thing on which you can say, he has done this wrong and all that. Naturally, opposition people and all would be coming up. But let us try to know things better before giving any solid comments, and that is my status as of now. I hope I have clarified the thing.